Welcome to the Inner Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Trent, and this is the show where we dive into all things youth athlete development, strength and conditioning, and the mindset needed to thrive on and off the field. Whether you're a parent looking to support your child's athletic journey, a coach seeking fresh insights, or an athlete ready to take your game to the next level, you're in the right place. Before we jump in, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated on our latest episodes. If you enjoy the show, please give us a like, share it with your friends, and help us reach even more people who can benefit from these insights. Together, we can empower the next generation of athletes to perform at their best. Now, let's get into it.
One of the things, and you actually did this course recently as well, the activation course. I'll get you insights on that in a second because I think it's one of the things that no other club's going to be doing in Australia, hands down, is we introduced a bit more of the activation work. So for those that don't know, I've had Carell on the podcast, so listen to some previous episodes on that. And it's really unlocking the body's ability to contract and perform and prevent compensatory patterns from occurring. For a sport like swimming, there's so many compensatory patterns in terms of the way that you breathe, in terms of how do you do your up kicks, in terms of how do you hold water. There's many compensation strategies that people will employ to be able to swim as fast as possible. But unfortunately, this is what can cause pain, injuries, and issues moving forward. So anyways, we started introducing the activations as part of the warm-ups on a more frequent basis. Now they're at the point where they actually do it. Some of them do it pre-race. They're behind the blocks. Some of them were a bit self-conscious about doing it. I was like, everyone's slapping themselves on the back of the thighs, across the chest, across the face. Some of them to psych themselves up. You might as well just do the activations at this point. you look less ridiculous from an outsider's perspective. Yes. And we started, and the reason why we brought this in was because I was hearing that they were getting issues at school. So at PE, or they're playing in the yard. I was like, I did this, I did my ankle, my hamstring's sore and tight, my calves are tight, blah, 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 blah. So, all right, we're going to be doing activations as part of the routine moving forward. So, long story short, implemented them, and then a lot of them actually starting to utilize it as a tool in order to improve the performance, whether it's, before training, whether it's in the pool, mid-set, to help with that breathe the heart rate down, to pre-race, part of their cool down, or even in the car as well. So we're finding it as a real powerful tool for the swimmers. But I'd love to get your feedback because you recently did it 2 months ago. Yeah,
I did the level 1 course and was lucky enough that Carell was there to take it, so I learnt a ton from him. And yeah, having worked with you for like 18 months or so now, was vaguely aware of what the activations were, but I guess kind of for me to sort of really to buy in, I kind of had to experience it for myself, and from a personal standpoint had been dealing with some injuries, and then like in the immediate aftermath of doing the course already noticed massive increases, so in improvements in my own sort of physical abilities. So when that sort of happens, you really buy in, and having seen it obviously with the swimmers as well, like the physical side, but I think the breathing aspect of the activations is massive as well. As you said, like mid-sets, mid-sessions, but also like pre-race, pre-training session, I think teaching the guys to breathe like much more effectively has had massive benefits. So
yeah, let me give you a bit of a case study. So I'm working with 2 breaststrokers, or one I had previously worked with, and I'm working with another one. They're both with the same club, so technically we're still coaching them. But I had one come in recently. He was suffering some sort of intercostal issue. So intercostals, basically it's the muscles in between, muscle and fascia in between your ribs. So basically, to some degree, it's supposed to allow your chest rib cage to expand and contract. In that case, I tested him. Basically, if you don't understand this may go over your head, but hopefully it will make a bit more sense when I get towards the end of it. He, on his left leg, when I tested him, he was a 3-3-3 leg. So basically is a 3-3-3 leg on the left side. And then on his right leg, he was actually a 3-3-3 arm on his left. So the reason why I'm saying it actually crosses over, so when you test, it's right leg, left arm you're testing, and then left leg, right arm. And the reason why we actually do that is because the way force transmits. So we're low. The way that we move is we're it's that cross crawl pattern. So when I walk forward, my left leg will go forward first with my right arm, and vice versa. So it's very reciprocal in that nature. We don't run with the same arm and leg going forward, otherwise you look, special.
Yes.
Anyways, back to the swimmer. He had an ankle issue. He's had a history of ankle issues, but because he's a breaststroker, he wants to do freestyle and wants to get better at it. And part of the reason why he will always struggle with his underwaters is because when he's trying to create hip flexion or powerful movement through his hips, he has to tense his foot up. So he has to try and point his toes towards his shin. So if his toes are pointed away, he's going to find it really hard to do that dolphin kick. Like, he doesn't feel like he's really connected with the water. Like, his legs are moving, but there's no, like, that transmission and coordination that you would have with the muscles and, transmitting from one muscle to the other down towards the toes. He struggles with that. And then because he's a breaststroker, he's actually really good. He's a good breaststroker. But the problem is, though, is he relies on his foot being pointed up towards his shin. And now for the kick, that's actually important for the frog kick. But also you need to be able to point your toes away. So for part of the movement, he'd be really good. And then the other half of the movement, he'd actually struggle with it. So you actually need to try and bring your foot up, catch the water, and then be able to shoot through. In terms of his left arm, it was quite interesting because it's his left intercostal. So his left side of his body is actually super compressed. When we went through and explained it to him like I am here, it's like, all right, it starts to make it a little bit more sense. As we started going through the activations, we got to about 4 points. We went through his diaphragm, hip flexors, glutes, and hamstrings. He started to notice that he started to feel a lot more lighter and less compressed. And if you think about it, right, if your body is compressed somewhere else, that reduces the function of those muscles of that area. So if he's constantly compressed downwards, so for his anterior side, he's compressed downwards, and he's actually explained to me he's had a history of lower back issues in the gym, that means he's really just utilizing his lower back to create extension, not his glutes. And he's a very athletic kid. But for whatever reason, his body wasn't firing in the right order. And physios and osteos will always say, "Oh, I've got to strengthen this, that, and the other." I'm like, mate, his glutes, his glutes look developed. His quads and hamstrings, they look juicy, like big meat missile legs. Like, he's got a good vertical as well. Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's an athletic looking guy. You wouldn't say that lack of a strength has ever been really an issue.
No.
As much.
No. The limitation is how the muscles were firing, or what was the dysfunction that was constantly at play when he was performing these movements. That was the biggest issue for him. And then I actually spoke to him at the time of the recording last night. He actually felt like, my underwaters don't feel powerful, but they feel easier. And that's the kicker of this activation stuff, is sometimes it doesn't always feel you're more powerful. It just feels easy. What that means is he's using less energy, less effort. What that means is he has more effort for later on when he needs to drop the hammer for a harder set. So it actually increases your capacity later on in your training sessions. So if that means his heart rate can come down. And that was the other kicker. His heart rate sits too high.
Yeah.
It's always in the 180, 190 zone. And I've actually, funnily enough, with the soccer club, one of the girls, she did a aerobic set, heart rate 190. And I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It was just way too high. Like, the heart is overcompensating for the lack of functionality of the diaphragm. And when that happens is we need to be able to pump more blood and be able to pump more oxygen around the body. But if we get a heart rate performing at a lower level, there's less strain and stress on the body, your sleep's more likely going to improve as well, because you can get into that more parasympathetic state, that rest and restore state faster, and you get out of that sympathetic state. And that's where I believe, the more and more I listen to people and more that I see, if you're in a sympathetic state more often, your performance is going to be on a massive decline. So this is the big thing that I've noticed with the activation. Sorry, I've gone completely off topic. Is the activations is so important in terms of implementation, but the way we implemented it is we do it as a group. We make everyone look ridiculous when we're doing it.
Yeah.
Even I look ridiculous when I'm doing it. But we get them to test. Has your hamstring flexibility improved? If it has, more than likely your diaphragmatic function has improved. Your breathing is actually a lot better, which basically means we can get your heart rate sitting at a lower level, which means you can recover faster between your efforts, which means you're going to be using less energy during your sets, which means you're going to be able to recover faster, which means that you're going to have more in the tank for your sets later on. There's such a huge domino effect of this. As you can tell, like if you're listening to this, and Billy obviously knows I'm a big advocate for this, that's why I pushed him to do the course, of how powerful this can be. Utilizing this system moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, as we said, like seeing it in person with like the guy we were just talking about, but like a ton of the others, like the improvements in a relatively short period of time have been massive. And yeah, like it's been amazing. And yeah, as you said with the soccer, I mean, hopefully we can start using it with them as well. And keep,
tomorrow's the plan.
Keep exposing like everyone to this because it's dynamite.
Yeah, if you want to know more about it, it's on our website. I think we've got it on our website, BeActivated, as well. The guy is actually Douglas, the creator of the course. He's actually coming to Sydney, so if those actually want to do the course, search up be123.co. That's a bit of a plug for Corel. And that is happening in March as well. So that's definitely a course, but more than likely there'll be another one later this year in Melbourne for the Melbourne folk here. And then our goal is to get all our coaches activated, certified as well, so we can implement it with all our members here. What were your takeaways with, I guess, from September onwards? What was your takeaways from everything? Just like, what was like the biggest things that you've noticed, or some of the key learnings for you, implementing this different system? Because it's very different. It's a little bit more nuanced from what we did previously.
Yeah, like as a coach myself, like continuing to kind of grow and learn with programming, kind of trial and error with the conjugate stuff. As we said, my situation with equipment and facilities was slightly different. So being able to kind of, I guess, be agile, be mobile with like my programming, but still kind of seeking the same kind of output through like that conjugate style was awesome. And seeing kind of relatively short term, like from September through to states in December, like the growth in a lot of our swimmers in a short period of time was awesome. And then also spending a lot of time, like half of my squad at Brighton is like state age, so they're quite young, and seeing the progress they've made in a short period of time, like guys who have never done any resistance training before. So really successful season, a lot of like learnings and a lot of stuff kind of to look forward to altering and working on going forward. But yeah, really pumped with how the club as a whole is looking and progressing from our side.
Yeah, we're shaping up. We're shaping up pretty well at the moment, leading into nationals. We've already started the prep, so today is September 6th. Not September 6th.
January
6th. Oh my gosh. Back in time. It is Jan 6th, and basically we're in prep mode for nationals happening after Easter this year. So it's actually quite a long time. So it's got 14 weeks. Until we really have to hit where we're really going to hit our stride. So we're starting that GPP base. It's the school holidays, just to give you a bit of a scope on the programming moving forward. As you probably tell, I'm pretty much an open book when it comes to programming. I don't think there's anything new. I think it's just modified to meet your needs, and then the really smart people will make it work even better. That's the way I kind of see things. With our programming at the moment, we are focusing heavily on the GPP, so we're going back to 1x20. But the difference is, though, because of the school holidays, a lot of them kids have access to a gym membership. They're really just smashing that at the moment. moving forward. But then they have 2 sessions with us per week, and this is really focusing on more drills. And then the drills we're really focusing on is jumping and landing. I really want them to bend their knees, because they need to bend their knees in their turns, because that's where the one thing I've noticed is that's where they'll actually make up a lot of time. If they can get a really solid push off the wall, they can help them save a lot of time, or gain back a lot of time as well. And then we're doing a lot of, and also the other part is actually being able to bring the knees up to the chest. So we're doing a lot of jumping mechanics. Then we're going to progress to more tuck jumps over larger hurdles. Some of them already, shitting a couple of bricks already about the idea of doing some more like track style hurdles. But what this is going to do is actually teach them to rapidly bring their knees up towards their chest. We're only going to do it to a small degree. They don't need to be, amazing at it, like it's their day job. What we need to do is actually implement some running technique. Now, I get all the swimmers like, why are we doing running techniques? We don't run, we swim in the water, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, there was an interesting article that I read many years ago. It was all about getting sprinters, also sprinters, but you can still apply this to middle distance, to actually do sprinting. And it's actually got to do with the central nervous system. Now,
Swimming sprinters.
Oh, so yeah, swimmers in the pool. So 50 and 100 guys and girls, is actually getting them to do sprinting on land. Part of the reason why is because sprinting on land is actually more of a highly coordinated movement. So from a neurological perspective, plus we're actually recruiting fast twitch motor units, and it's basically that what we would call the Heinemann size principle, like really tapping into that specifically. Now, for those that don't know what the Heinemann size principle is basically the idea, if, say, for example, I've got a coffee mug in my hand, for those who are listening at home. If I was to lift the coffee mug up off this bench, I only need to use a small amount of motor units, like more of the small ones, because it doesn't require much strength. But if I had my large, powerful motor units to contract, I would crack myself in the head, right? It's basically the law of conservation and preservation. The body doesn't want to recruit those fast motor units, right? So we need to be able to tap into those fast motor units, which are more, and they recruit the larger, more powerful muscle fibers. So within the glutes, they're not all just big, powerful muscle fibers. There is, some fast twitch, some slow twitch ones, and there's some hybrid muscle fibers as well. But if you're a sprinter, we actually want to convert those fibers more into those fast twitch, right? So it would make sense to recruit those muscles, even if it's in a very novel way that is not related to swimming, which is sprinting on land, which will help to improve your output. And the problem with swimming as well is because you're against resistance, it's very hard to do sprints. And if you're doing sprints in the pool, you actually become really tired and fatigued. Yeah. You need a long time to rest. Whilst if I'm doing a 10 meter sprint, how long do I need to rest?
Like 30 seconds, if that.
30 to a minute.
Yeah.
Not long. I can get quite a few high quality reps in, right? So if we start to recruit the highest threshold motor units, that will recruit the larger muscle fibers. That means I can have a transfer effect of those motor units into the training session as well. And it has a positive neurological effect that can last from 24 to 72 hours. So that window of time is I'm still recruiting those larger motor units. It's like with footy guys these days, just to relate it back to, I guess, more of a sport that most people would understand, is with footy, sometimes the team will have a captain's run. And that captain's run is usually pretty short, maybe 30 to 45 minutes long. It's very light, but there is some sprinting component to it, because the recruitment of those muscle fibers carries over to game day. And what that means is on game day, the warm-up can actually be shorter. That means there's more preservation of energy as well. So you don't have to spend as much time warming up, or you can actually have more of a slower, gradual warm-up. And you don't have to try and ramp it up to a massive intensity, because you've already tapped into the central nervous system.
Yeah, 100%. Especially again, not just from that perspective as you're saying, but also like with the younger guys it's more of a coordination benefit as well. As I said, like a lot of them are single sport athletes. Don't know how to run, don't know how to jump, as we said, don't know how to bend their knees. So this sort of bringing in this perspective is, again, as we said before, making them more athletic swimmers, not just swimmers.
Yeah. Hopefully that rant made sense. There were too many rants in this episode, so I better wrap this up. And yeah, moving forward, what's the plan with your crew at Rotten?
I think, the older crew, as you said, get them back into a GPP phase for the next month or so. Again, with the looking towards nationals, back into 1x15, 1x20, and with the younger guys, I guess similar, probably with skill development being like an emphasis. I think we've got some really young guys there. The training age is like 0 essentially. So
0 to 6 months.
Yeah, building up coordination, just movement literacy, I think is going to be massive for my guys. But exciting times. I'm really enjoying working with this group at the moment.
Yeah, for me, it's, as I mentioned before, it's just back into that GPP phase, and then we're going to follow something similar to like wave loading. But now we've actually got a few swimmers that have finished year 12, so they've actually got an extra month and a half off. Month and a half? No, I have about a month off extra before they actually start uni, so I can actually start to crank up the volume of their training even more, and then they'll have a bigger peak, unfortunately, compared to the ones that start the end of this month or early Feb with their training. So it's going to be a bit more catered to groups in that sense, and I think that's going to be really good in that perspective, that we're becoming even more nuanced as the seasons go on as well, and really identifying issues moving forward. But yeah, and then obviously just sticking to what actually has worked, and then just chopping out things that probably didn't have much of an effect, and then see how, it with training. I will preface this: a lot of it is a guesstimate. So let's not get it twisted. Not everything is always going to work. It is a guesstimate, but we want to, have many data points as possible and get feedback from our athletes to make it less of a guess and a lot more precise as possible, based on how they're actually performing. So the idea is obviously getting them, PBs and medals and places, on the podium. But the main thing is actually checking in to actually see if the programming is actually converting across, and that is a concept called dynamic correspondence. So we want to make sure that the exercise is actually carrying over and transferring across.
Yeah, I think also something that we didn't touch on too much is like we are testing pretty consistently in the gym as well.
Oh yes.
Like primarily like jump testing, but other like strength metrics as well, just to, like you say, like figure out if what we're actually doing is having the impact that we want it to. That constant sort of assessment is massive.
And it becomes a really good tool to actually see if they're actually freshened up as well. And I liked doing it, and I liked how we did it just before states. And then a lot of them actually PB'd on their vertical jumps, which means they're actually ready to go.
Yeah.
For us, and it gives us the confidence, gives the coach the confidence, and gives the athlete the confidence moving forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Sweet. Anyway, end on that one. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Indian Athlete Podcast. We are back. 2025. It's good to get this one kicked off. We've got quite a few things, a few new guests actually, and tapping into a few different sports as well. So I'll be really excited to be able to share that with you guys moving forward. Until then, I'll see you on the next one.
You have just listened to the Inner Athlete Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the release of weekly episodes. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get great tips on all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.